MPB listeners remember her as Rita Brent. She was my producer on Now You're Talking. She also hosted some of her own radio and TV programs, but this versatile and talented lady, who goes by the stage name Rita Brent, has moved on. Whether she's playing drums in a band, telling jokes on stage, or hamming it up on her Facebook, her career as an entertainer is set to take off. Sharita, thanks for dropping by your old haunts. Good to see you. I'm just saying this as a friend, not somebody interviewing. I'm really proud of you. It's been a great year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the first time you've ever said that.
Really?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, no. I usually am nice for the most part, so don't do a Facebook prayer for me or anything.
It's coming.
It's coming. That's what I thought. But we'll just go ahead and start with that. I mean, you're on Facebook a lot, and you're taking a fast from the comments?
I am, just from my timeline in general, because it has gotten to the point where I'm consuming everybody's problems.
Yes.
And so if someone is having an issue with their boyfriend, then I'm thinking, well, what happened? I want to know. So I'm kind of adopting people's problems, and I just want to get some peace, and I don't have it when I'm on my timeline, interestingly enough.
See, you could actually kind of go into that. You could become like Dear Happy.
Well, maybe so.
Dear Rita, on that, give us some really sarcastic advice, kind of like your granny would give you.
Right, right.
And speaking of your granny, which you do talk about, and I got to meet her, by the way. I felt like I was meeting a rock star.
Yeah, she didn't like the attention at all, but she was glad to meet you too. So.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But you talk about her a lot. How does she feel about that?
I don't tell her everything I say.
Yeah.
She is not a fan of Facebook. She thinks it's dangerous. She's like, don't put me on Facebook because I don't want somebody to come rob me. I don't know how she made that connection. But people love my conversations with Granny.
Yeah.
And to me, it's a way of keeping memories about the things she says. So I'm going to go back and maybe make a book of all the things and all the conversations she said. Somebody inboxed me the other day and said, you should write a book about your granny and the advice she gives you.
That would be a great book.
Yeah, I think so, too.
What would she say about this interview right now?
She would tell me that I should have covered up my chest.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's always a big thing with her, isn't it? She'd probably tell me that, too, actually.
Cover up my chest and put something on my head. She's just always worried about me getting pneumonia for some reason. I don't know what her worry is, but yeah, this is going to be a problem for her. So.
Okay. Well, maybe we can do some maybe post-edit special effects or something.
Yeah, just crop me in a collar. I would appreciate that.
No problem. We'll make you look kind of like a pilgrim, maybe, and something.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
That would be great.
Okay, when you were growing up, when you were young, did you ever dream this is what you would be doing right now?
No, not even close.
Really?
I listen to other comedians all the time, and they talk about they always knew they were going to be a comedian. Maybe they were the class clown or something gave them the inkling that they would grow up to be comedians. But not me, because my childhood was about music. I was a drummer. I started drumming at the age of 8 with my mom in church. Just the regular drummer just happened to be away one day, and my mom said, do you want to try? She plays piano, and she's been singing. And so I had the gene in me, but I just didn't know. And I got on the drum set at 8, and I just fell in love. And so I really thought my claim to fame would be drums. I thought I would end up playing for Prince or somebody. Turned 26 and everything changed. I still drum some, but now comedy is just completely taken over my life. So yeah, it was not expected.
I remember that. I remember when you got to the point, and of course, you know, we'd meet, you'd be busy, you'd have gigs all weekend, you'd call me on Sunday saying, hey, look, I think we have a guest, and we talk a little bit on Monday, and you talk about, you know, I think I may actually do comedy. I'm just like going, no, go for it, you'll do great. And the thing that's so amazing, and I think it's something I really want to explore during this show, is how you did it. Because so many people think, well, I'm going to go become famous, and then they fall flat on their face. But you really kind of had a game plan, didn't you?
Yeah, and it's a continuous game plan because as a comedian, you have your talents and you get your cadence down and you get your format down and your style and your topics, but you are forever going to be evolving as a comedian. And I didn't realize this until last year. I heard Dave Chappelle say he bombed at a gig and he didn't do well. And Chris Rock, they say that's a part of it. And I was like, wait, so I have to expect these disappointments for decades to come. So being a comedian or trying to be a comedian, it's a continuous thing where you have to go to open mics to get better. You have to rewrite jokes because, no joke is really perfect. You can always refine it and make it better. But it is important to do those things, like go to open mics and test your material, because that's practice for us. Musicians, we practice at home, but as a comedian, you have to get out and put yourself in a space of vulnerability to try jokes in front of strangers. And if it doesn't work, that's a good thing because it doesn't work. Right. And then you can scratch that off the list. And if something does work, then that's success. And you can go ahead and use that joke. But it's challenging.
When I get up in front of a stage, I feed off the energy, which is probably important why you need to actually practice in front of a crowd, is to get used to that energy. But I have to, in my own speaking, I would say there's probably nothing more miserable than the crowd you hear crickets.
Yeah.
That's got to be terrifying. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it happened recently.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. And when I say it's not that fun, I don't mean that I don't enjoy comedy, but it is not fun when you tell a joke that you were just certain it was going to work, right, and you tell it and it doesn't work. It just kind of takes the breath out of you, but okay, this is a joke I need to go back and work on a little bit more. But I've had those gigs where there were just crickets, because I do a lot of traveling. And recently I was in Dayton, Ohio, and I was coming off a big show where I had just done all this good material and it worked well in my hometown. I don't know, maybe it was because the people knew me, but I tried that same set in Dayton and those folks were looking at me like I was crazy. And I was like, wait a minute, I know these jokes work, but it might have been just a regional thing, right. Maybe they just couldn't relate. And that's something you have to consider when you're going to different places. I have to do a little research and find out about the place and see if I can say something relatable in my set.
Do you ever get like 3 or 4 minutes or 5 minutes? This isn't working, it's working. Do you have like a plan B? Do you have a parachute? Can you pull a ripcord?
No, you just have to take it.
Oh, do you? Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you just have to take it, especially if you have maybe 15 or 20 minutes that you have to honor. There was a comedian, I can't remember, it was a female comedian who said it was an hour set and she was bombing, but she had to complete the hour so she could get paid. So you can't breach the contract. Even if you're struggling for 15 minutes and you have 45 minutes to go, you just have to finish unless you want to just walk off and not get paid. So that's up to you.
That would be like a lifetime, having 45 minutes of just bombing.
Yeah. Oh. And I get anxious when I see the crowd isn't laughing. I start talking fast. My chest is beating fast, and I'm just doing anything to try to get to the joke that I know will save me.
One of the reasons why comedians don't like it when people whip out their cell phone.
No, we don't like that for a few reasons. One reason is because sometimes we are still working on material. So to whip out a phone at an open mic where a comedian is testing material is just a big no-no. But some people just don't know because we've gotten into this vein of recording and documenting everything with our phones. Some people just don't know. That's not good audience comedic etiquette to film a comedian. And for me, I'm just always afraid of somebody stealing my stuff. Yeah. I'm very afraid of that.
And that happens more often than not. I mean, it's amazing how many people just boldly, because you'll sit there and watch one comedian and then you'll suddenly see somebody rip it off and you're like, dude, that's like pretty easy to catch.
Yeah, I got a tweet the other day from a fellow comedian of mine, and he said, this guy is doing your bit that you did on Comedy Central. And my question to him was, are you going to approach him? Because that's the only thing as comedians, we have to hold other comedians accountable. So if I see you doing a bit that I know you stole, I'm going to say it to you. Hey, that bit is not yours, whether you know it or not, it's not yours, so you need to stop doing it.
Was it the shoe bit?
Yes, it was.
Oh, you got to be kidding me. Even I know that bit. So it's like, oh, wow. Okay. Well, let's talk about some people in your life that have made a huge difference. I think probably the best place to start is your mom. Yeah, she's strong. She really is.
Yeah, my mom has been supportive no matter how undecided I was about my future. Because I've done a lot of things. At one point, I wanted to be a speech teacher, and I quit to become a full-time comedian. At another point, I wanted to be a speech pathologist. And along the way, my mom is just like, I support you.
And you had a perfectly good job working with me.
Right. I quit.
Why would I ever give that up? Wait a minute, for the big time. But, I mean, you played basketball, and I mean, you had... But she knew that you had this talent in you, and she's always supported you.
Yeah, and even when I got in the military, she was totally against that because she just thought I was going to get deployed, but I was in the military band, so I was able to reassure her that I probably wouldn't be in any danger. But my mom is a praying mother. She's a very strong woman. For a long time, she was a single mom, and she was raising me and my sister by herself. And she went through a lot financially and emotionally, and I really never even knew it. She never really ever showed weakness. So I learned from her how to be strong and push through even when you're going through trials and tribulations. And so even now she's extremely supportive, even though she's a minister and she's a minister of music. She does not mind me cursing too much on stage. She has a problem with the F word. She does not like that one. But she's very understanding, and she is my #1 fan. Seriously, she thinks I'm better than Wanda Sykes and everybody. I mean, it's kind of crazy how she's overly supportive, almost.
Well, I know she quit listening to my show the day you left.
Probably so.
It broke my heart.
Yeah.
It just broke my heart.
I'll be honest.
But she loves Little Ricky. I can tell you that.
Yes, she enjoyed when he was on.
It really was cool. Miranda Joyner. She's been a big part of your life and really helped you. She's your manager. She's helped you with your branding. Sometimes when you're trying to get started, it's nice to have people that have got a little bit more skill in the business side of this. Hasn't it? It's been wonderful.
Well, yeah, and you need help. You know, some of us are really proud and we think we can do it all alone. I always hear this thing when people say, I'm self-made. That's cute to say, but no, and none of us are self-made. But I met Miranda in 2014, and initially she didn't want to be my manager because she didn't know anything about managing a comedian, even though she was into the entertainment industry. So I forced her to be my manager, and she has just been wonderful.
How did you force her?
Just begged, basically. This is a nice way to say I begged. But she has been wonderful in helping me with branding, which I think has really, really set me apart on social media. Just things like having professional pictures and professional flyers. Those things really do make a difference when people from the outside in are looking. But yeah, from the branding perspective, she's been very helpful. Sometimes I'll run my jokes by her and she'll let me know, no, that's not good. Or she'll say, okay, you need to work on this one a little bit. But she works hard, negotiating contracts. A lot of the fires she puts out and I don't even know about, you know, so she is someone I trust, and also someone I trust with my money, because there are so many horror stories out there about janky promoters and folks who are just out to get you, and I don't feel like that at all about Miranda. That's
got to be, I mean, that is one of the most stressful things when you hear those horror stories like that. But it is nice too when you're a creative person like you are, and like I am kind of.
Kind of.
Well, kind of. But I mean, but it's hard to come up with a price sometimes, and sometimes you don't ask enough. So it's nice to have somebody else out there that's so willing to say, okay, this is what she's worth, and this is what we're going to get.
Yeah, because I'm the nice person, and I want to just charge $5 to tell jokes, and she's like, no, you're not going to do that.
You charge $25.
Yeah. This is your resume. You know, charge what you are worth.
Right.
So I appreciate her dealing with folks on that level, emailing and negotiating and all that, because if I had to do it, I probably would take the lesser amount every time.
You're working here, and like I said, I remember when you were saying, well, I'm going to do this, and I remember the first time you did a stand-up. I mean, did you sit down and say, okay, I want to become a stand-up comedian and sit on a piece of notebook paper and I've got to do this, this, and this, and this? Because it seemed almost like you had it stepped out.
I don't know. The first time I did comedy, I had to send in a video. And I remember I was in a bedroom and I was just making up stuff. It was horrible. I turned in the video and then I ended up performing a couple weeks later. And I think I did maybe 5 minutes. And it was horrible. My mom had just got out of church, so she came to the club. It was an actual club, and she came to the club with this huge church outfit on. She may have taken the church hat off, but she was in the club watching me, and there were a few more people in there, and I might have gotten, I don't know, 2 or 3 chuckles that night. And I think I made $25 in that 5-minute span, and I said, you know what, I think I want to take this seriously.
That's not a bad hourly rate, though.
It's not. It's not. So what I did was I started studying comedians. Because I didn't know if there was a comedian school you could go to, or you can't get a degree in comedy, you know. So I started studying comedians and just trying to get an idea of how to formulate a joke. You know, what's the opening? What should the middle be? What should the end be? And now there are just so many podcasts I can listen to learn. And they have master classes on Facebook even, where you can learn from comedians. So yeah, it's just, it is a thing where you kind of have to self-teach.
Right.
And you can get better, but it's going to be up to you and how you pace yourself. So on a weekly basis, if you don't study, if you don't write jokes, then it's going to reflect in your content and in your sets. So for me, on a daily basis, pretty much I'm writing jokes and I'm studying somebody and I'm listening to some kind of comedic history. So it's a continuous thing where you have to thirst and get knowledge.
A lot of people don't understand that creativity is almost like having to run, like when you ran in elementary school and you nearly barfed along, but then, you know, when you do it every day, you can end up running a marathon, but you have to do it daily to become any good at it. You talk about mentors and learning. I mean, Ricky Smiley has been a huge part of your life. Yeah, I mean, just everything. And I remember this one point where you had like a little bottle of alcohol. And, you know, you were going to take a little snort just to kind of loosen up before the stage. And
I was going to snort the alcohol.
Yeah. But that's an old timer phrase. But, you know, but I mean, he's like, you don't need to do that.
Yeah, I met Ricky in 2016. I had won this open mic competition at the Stardome Comedy Club, which is just a legendary club in Hoover/Birmingham, Alabama. And the owner of the club, Bruce Ayers, wanted to invite me to perform for and meet Ricky. And his wife was really the one who saw me and got me in the face of the owner, her husband.
Right.
Met Ricky in 2016, and we were backstage, and I was just floored to even meet him. And I promise, it was a little bottle of Tennessee Fire. It's delicious, right? And I hadn't had any of it, but it was just sitting by me, and Ricky looked behind me, and he was like, "What's that?" I was like, "I don't know." And he said, "You don't need that to perform on stage. Let everything be organic, let it be natural, let your energy and your adrenaline help you on stage to perform." And so from that moment on, I don't drink anything to go on stage. I was drinking it because I thought it was going to help me knock the nerves off, but it really didn't, and it still doesn't. If I have a glass of wine or something, if I'm going to be nervous, I'm going to be nervous. So I don't do all these things to help me relax or anything before a gig. I just get up there and I'm prepared. That's what helps, being prepared.
Being prepared, I mean, that's what I said. You know, yes, you have been noticed. Yes, you have had people that have believed in you. But if you hadn't have done your homework and you hadn't been ready and prepared when you got on that stage, they would have just kept walking and never said a word to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because many of us are worried about never getting an opportunity. But for me, the thing is being ready for when an opportunity comes, because it's going to come. But are you going to be ready? Especially
with the internet and with Facebook. And I know you'll do a prayer on Facebook on that, and you'll get like hundreds of thousands of views on this thing. So if you're not putting out good quality material, I mean, why even do it?
And that can be tricky, putting the videos out, because some of my videos are politically driven and controversial.
Well, I was going to say, you're an observational comedian. I mean, yeah.
But the comments can really get ruthless. I've been called everything under the sun. I know you can relate.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yes, I can, as a matter of fact. But you don't let it bother you. You can't.
Yeah, I try not to read the comments. But one of the last videos, one of the last videos I did, it was about Donald Trump. He's botching the words to the national anthem, and I made fun of him. And the comments apparently were extremely bad, because my friends were calling me, asking me if I was okay. Are you okay? Wow. You need to get security. I was like, wow, are they that bad? I never went back to read them, because I can't get folks to understand that I'm a comedian. I'm not a politician. So I'm going to be sarcastic, but it's in a fun way for me.
Do you think that as a country that we've lost our sense of humor?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I do too.
Oh man, I mean, the level of sensitivity that we have as a country now is like, whoa. Because if you go back and look at some of the older comics and the stuff they used to say, these things weren't being filmed. So whatever happened in the comedy club stayed in the comedy club. But now, if you say something that is not popular, your career could be ended. Or in the same token, it could be a game changer for you. Just like Hannibal Buress did that bit about Bill Cosby and his situation, and it brought it back to the forefront. Just that bit. It was already public knowledge, but the fact that a comedian said it, it really made a difference in Hannibal Buress's career.
Well, I think all comedy comes from pain. I think it's a coping mechanism and everything else. And a lot of times in your humor, I've noticed that you can really just kind of draw on personal experiences. Some of the stuff you've written when the Me Too movement started coming, because some of the experiences that happened in your life, that was pretty powerful.
Yeah, and I think it's so wonderful that as a comedian I can do that.
Yeah.
I can take my pain and make it funny, or use the stage as a therapeutic platform where many people can't do that. So this last special I did at the Alamo, I really, really got personal. You know, I talked about my past relationships. I talked about no longer being married, which a lot of people didn't know. And I could kind of hear some gasps in the crowd, like, oh, Rita was married?
How did they not know that?
Yeah. But it took a while for me to get to that point where I wanted to share something so personal like that. But in the same token, it's abuse. It's an abuse of my platform if I don't talk about things that I know people can relate to.
Right.
Yeah, millions of people have been divorced. Millions of people have kids or don't have kids. They have grandmothers who are funny. So it's my job to get personal, because I can do that with my platform without consequence.
You went up against, was it about 40 people in Mississippi to get a chance to be on Kevin Hart's special.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be on the show. And that was so much fun. We were sitting there around Thanksgiving watching you on going, we know her, she's famous. What was that like? Number one, what's Kevin Hart like?
Kevin Hart is very chill.
Yeah.
And I was glad to see that, because as a comedian, everybody wants me to tell a joke when they meet me. And
Isn't
I'm
that
like,
you're like,
so
seriously.
annoying.
Yeah, draw me a picture, funny boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But folks find it hard to believe that I'm not off stage like I am on stage. When I'm on stage, I'm literally getting into a character. And so when I met Kevin Hart, he was extremely chill and just relaxed. And I was like, all right, this is cool. And you know, when he gets on stage, it's a completely different person. But that was comforting to me to know that, okay, there's not anything wrong with me, that I'm not trying to be the funniest person in the room when I'm not on stage. But Kevin was very nice. Mm-hmm. He was very inquisitive. He wanted to know about the comedy experience of ours in Mississippi. He was funny. He has a very, very quick wit, and he thinks really quickly on his feet. And he was extremely engaged in the whole process. Mm-hmm. Even though he's the talent, he was talking to the cameraman, and he wanted to know what lens they were using and all that kind of stuff. So it was great just seeing him in that element. And it was a pleasure meeting him. It was a quick meeting. And we got to perform for him, and that was funny. I tried not to look at him when I was performing, because that would have been too much pressure. But to go back and look at the filming and see that he actually laughed at some of the stuff I said was really validating.
And in the questions afterwards, you could tell he was really engaging you. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It really was.
But he's just doing an amazing job of helping comedians who are trying to come up. Because he only chose comedians who didn't have any television experience or no television accolades on their resume. And so he's doing this in multiple cities across the country, and that's how you give back and pass the torch.
I mean, Ricky's done the same thing with
Absolutely.
you, too. Yeah, and you've been on the radio show, which is a lot of fun, which I can't believe you know how to do radio. I'm shocked.
Right.
You still remember how to do that. Oh, that's good. Okay, what's next for you? I mean, you've got this. I mean, you can sing, you can play drums, you can do stand-up comedy, you can do some acting. I've seen you do that. So what's the future?
Yeah, I need to do better at this acting thing. I recently shot a commercial, and I was so tense. So I'm going to take some acting classes. Samuel L. Jackson has a master class on Facebook.
Nice.
And I'm sure he'll teach us a few choice words.
You can learn the F word once again.
Yeah. So I'm going to take some acting classes seriously, so I can get into some more plays and do more auditions. And other than that, I'm just touring. I have some comedy club gigs. I'm doing some church shows. Many don't know that I am versatile. I can do clean comedy, or I can do unclean comedy. Pure
You just can't
impure.
get mixed up and do the wrong one in the wrong place.
Right. Thank God that has not happened yet. I have not cursed at a church show, even though I know many church people who curse. I have not done it yet. So yeah, I'm just going to be performing all over, and I have a website, ritabrent.com, and folks can see where I'm going to be.
I tell you, it is really scary, though, when you make that leap from a 40-hour-a-week job and a steady paycheck to go chase your dream.
Yeah, because I had the MPB check, and then comedy was just on the side.
Yeah.
And now it's just comedy.
Right.
And so that becomes challenging as well, because you almost feel a sense of desperation, and you think, I have to take this gig, I have to take this gig. But thanks to Miranda, we still are putting ourselves in a position to say no to gigs that don't benefit us. But like I was saying to you...
And that's hard, too, is to learn when to say no. Because a lot of times when you're in that position, you're like, you got to take everything that's coming at you.
Right.
And that'll just wear you out.
Right, but like I was telling you, the challenge for me has been coming up with a routine, like a daily routine. Because when I worked at MPB, I had to be at work at 8. Never made it at 8, but I was supposed to be here at 8. The lunch was at this time. We got off at that time. So that has been a challenge, waking up and saying, I'm going to do yoga at 8, I'm going to eat lunch at 12, and I'm going to write jokes at 6. So that has been a challenge. I need to get up and run with you.
Yeah, well, okay, you already broke my heart earlier. You're saying that, well, I've been going to the gym. I was like, well, you don't need to lose weight. No, I got to gain weight.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, stop it.
I am trying to gain weight, at least about 10 pounds.
I'll tell you how to gain weight, okay? I'll give you a master class on how to gain weight because I'm really good at that.
Yeah, the collarbone it's protruding too much. I'm sick of seeing my collarbone, so I need some meat on my bones. My granny says I need to eat cornbread, but I don't like cornbread. Yeah, I mean, I know they're gonna take my black card for saying that, but I don't like cornbread, so I'm gonna have to find something else to eat to help me gain weight.
I like cornbread, so does that mean I have one of those cards
Well,
too?
I'm gonna give you my black card then, because I don't like it.
Believe me, I could use it. I'm pretty pale. But it's hard on the road. I'm surprised because it's like there's really nothing to eat on. You're eating buffets and, you know, those little red pickled eggs and everything.
I eat horribly on the road, meaning I don't eat much at all. Because leading up to the shows, I'm extremely nervous and I don't eat before the show. And when I get off, I may or may not feel like eating at midnight. So I may eat like a quesadilla or something like that, but I don't eat well on the road. And you don't get much on the airplane either. It's either baby pretzels or baby cookies.
And they miss their mommies. They really do.
Right,
They do miss their mommies. Final thoughts? I mean, we're about to wrap up, but...
Oh, well, you know, just come out to see me perform. I have met many people who have heard me on MPB and they've come to my shows and they have been completely shocked to see me in a different element. But I'm just thankful to, for one, have worked at MPB and just to be around so many great people and to have the support of folks, because when I quit, my boss, Jason, was like, oh, I knew this was coming. He was almost pushing me out the door.
He knew it 2 years before it happened. I mean, he would say, well, someday we'll be working for Sharita.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But just to have the support of so many people in the community especially is really powerful. I mean, just being in the grocery store and folks coming up to me, giving me random hugs, we're rooting for you. I saw a quote that said, when you're lazy, it's disrespectful to people who are rooting for you. And I said, that is powerful.
That is strong.
So I've just been honored to have the support of everybody in Jackson and trying to become the next big thing out of Mississippi.
Well, I'm
trying to catch up with Tig Notaro.
I know that there will be, probably in a couple of years, I'll be saying this, saying, I used to work with her. Wow, I got her autograph. Rita, thank you for joining us today.
Thank
Congratulations.
You, Thank you.